What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about something super important that especially new developers need to understand, and that is the web development and coding in general. Like once you know what you're doing, once you know the fundamentals at least and how to do everything, on a basic level. Coding is art, guys. Like there's a million different ways to do the same thing. Not everybody's brain is going to be thinking the same way. So we're all going to do stuff a little bit differently. And the reason I'm making this video is because I get a lot of messages. I get emails and stuff like that. And even there's some like comments out there that I get where people are constantly asking me like, why would you do this? Why, you can just do this way. I get troll comments all the time from people that I can tell don't really know what they're doing, but they just want to be a troll. They'll be like, man, you make, in your tutorials, you do things, you make so many divs. Why do you do that? That's too many. Why do you do this? Guys, the way that I do things, it works. Like everybody gets obsessed, especially when you're new. They get obsessed with like, what's the best practice? What's the least amount of code I can write to get something done? I want to look like the smartest guy out there. Don't worry about that, guys. There's just do stuff in the way you know how to get it done. Okay? Don't worry about trying to write the least lines of code and look like the smartest developer out there, because like at the end of the day, nobody cares. Nobody. And if you're trying to just impress a bunch of random like nerds online, that's not a good way to go. Like the only reason you should be learning this coding stuff is to make more money and better your life. Like this stuff is such a pain in the ass that you don't want to make it more complicated than that. Just learn the basics, get stuff done, and don't worry about doing it, the best way or best practices. Now, if you work for a company, if you get a corporate job and they have a way of doing certain things, you follow their way, right? They're going to have their own documentation a lot of times. They're going to have their way of writing their code. The developers that have already been working there will tell you what that is. But if you're doing it like I do it and you just like to build stuff and you like to freelance and do stuff on your own, nobody cares what your code looks like on the back end. As long as it works, nobody cares. Especially the person that's paying you to freelance is just a business owner. They know nothing about the code. They know nothing about anything. They just want the result. Nobody cares. You can write 30 lines of code and then instead of writing, like 2 lines to do the same thing, nobody cares. Nobody cares. So let's just go a few things. Let's just do a couple of examples here, right? This is practical web dev, so we like to do something practical and show something practical. So let's just go. I already have a little file set up here. I'll go live. We'll get our code side by side here. Let's just write some code. Let's do stuff many different ways just to illustrate this point, right? And we'll just do some really simple examples. I'm not going to get into complex like algorithm writing and stuff like that. It's not necessary, but let's say we have an H1. We'll just call it my page. Okay, there it is, my page, right? Now, what if we wanted to make it all capitalized? Well, we could do it a couple different ways, right? So we could just go H1, my page in HTML. It's all capitalized. Or I could just make an H1, my page, uncapitalized. But then what I could do is I could put a class on here, call it main heading. Right? Now remember, let's just say we want to make it capitalized. I already did it one way, just doing it in the HTML. What else could we do, right? You could go, we'll just make style tags in here. We can grab onto our main heading class, put our dot selector, and we could say text transform. And if we want it all uppercase, we would say uppercase. Look, same thing, 2 ways of doing it, right? Nobody cares. Nobody would care on the back end what the hell you did, okay? What else? We can get into like a more complicated thing. Oh, we can do this. This is a lot of when I do this, it pisses a lot of people off, but I like to put divs. So let's just say div. We'll make a div and we'll call it my image container. And we'll just put an image in here. And then let's grab an image make an IMG folder, and I'll grab some images here. All right, so I'll grab an image. Let's put a selfie of me. There I am, okay? And I'll just go into our image folder, put that down. There's an image, right? So people really get bent out of shape. People like send me messages about this. It's so weird. They don't like that I put divs around my images to make it block, right? So if I put 2 there. So images are like inline. I think they're inline block by default. But if you just wrap them into div, it makes them block, right? Or you could just go into CSS and do the same thing. So let's comment that out. I don't know, like, it's so funny. That's kind of the reason I wanted to make this video, because people are just crazy online. But it's a good video because I know that when I was new, at least, I actually worried about a lot of the same. I didn't like troll people and like say dumb comments to people about stuff, but I always wanted to like do things the best way and write the least amount of code and look really smart. And the more experience I got, the more I was like, why am I doing that? It's so stupid. Like, it's such a dumb thing to worry about. So now we have our images out of a div. So let's go up here and make them smaller so that they behave like they should instead of stacking. Say width 200 pixels each. And now look, so images by default without that div, they're going to go inline, okay? So we don't want that. So we could also come in here and just say display block and then have them display block that way. But then, you know, it's however you want to do it, guys. When I'm writing like code, usually images are in cards with text and everything. I like everything in a div to just really take total control of everything and not have to write as much CSS. I'd rather write less CSS and more HTML, but that's just my preference, right? That's the whole point. It's not right. It's not wrong. You can do it however you want. Let's do something. We'll do one more thing. Let's do a button. And we'll put an ID on here, change BG. Okay. So this button's going to change the background. I'm going to make it change the background of our page with JavaScript. Okay. So we have an ID on there, change BG. And let's just make the text say change now. And then we'll just style it up a little bit. Let's take this. Just build some. Let's just have a little bit of fun here. And let's just give it a width of like 300 pixels and a height of 100 pixels just to make it a little bit bigger. So there's our button. Let's give it some margin on the top to separate it. Margin top 3 rem. All right, so let's make some JavaScript here. And in our script tags, let's select our button. So we'll say, now here's even 2 ways how we could do this too, without even getting into the functionality. I could just say document dot get element by ID, and copy and paste my ID in here. And then we can say dot add event listener, say click, and then run a function. And then just say console.log you clicked the button. So we might not even do the background thing because I don't think that's necessary. Let's just go to inspect though. So when I click the button, I want it to say you click the button, right, in the console. So we're in our console now. You click the button. There it is. Okay, and click it 1,000,000 times. So see how that code looks? That gets the job done, but there's a whole other way I could do that, right? And this is the way I don't like doing it. When I first learned how JavaScript, my instructor they really just taught us this without using a variable or anything like that. And this big long chunk of code, especially as a newbie, confused the hell out of my brain, and I did not understand JavaScript and what the hell this was for like days. Like I'm not that smart at this stuff, guys. This doesn't come naturally to me. I could not grasp what all of this chunk meant. So even to this day, when I'm writing my JavaScript, I break everything down into separate pieces of code and separate steps because that's just how my brain works, right? So we could say const button equals, so put it in here, put it in a variable, right? Document dot get element by ID, and And again, let's put it in here. And then we could separate it. So now we'll say button, which we just put in there, dot add event listener. All right. And then again, we're going to do click. And then we could even, instead of just putting an anonymous, well, let's do both. We'll put function. Okay. Same stuff. And console.log. You clicked the button. Okay. So this time we used a variable. We put the event listener and the function together in an unnamed function. And it did the same thing. Okay. Again, this would still confuse the hell out of me because it's not step by step and I can't see what's doing what as a brand new person because my brain just doesn't work that way. So instead of doing that way, we can do it yet a third way. We could, let's see, I want to keep this. So let's just get that out of here. We could say click. And then we could name the function. So we could say button click. And then down here we could say function button click. And then let's just grab this code here, delete this. And we could do it this way. And it still does, look at that, 3 different ways of writing the same stuff. And it all did the same thing. And it gets more complicated as you go, right? I'm sure if you're watching this, if you're more, if you're more seasoned of a developer, you can make the same web application, do the same functionality, and write the code out a million different ways to achieve the same thing, right? So I just wanted to, I guess, share that with you guys, especially for you new guys. Don't worry about other people, what they say is the best. There is no right one answer in coding. It's a lot like art. Once you figure out the fundamentals, it's like writing. Once you figure out how to write, just write letters, you come up with your own style of writing based off of how your brain works if you're like telling a story or whatnot, okay? So just do stuff the way that works best for your brain, guys. The most important thing is just build things and get stuff done. Do not worry about best practice. Do not worry about learning the newest, greatest framework. Just use the tools that you know how to use and get the job done, all right? Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.